Welcome back once again, and now sitting at the helm for the first time ever, Crazy Joe Ryder. And on the other end of this tubes and wires we call the interwebs is Cory, one-eyed Strode. Cory, how you doing today? Cory?
Everything's cool, Joe.
Cory.
I'm all set for the show.
Cory, over here. You're too
have
far
we started
away.
Recording yet?
Come this way. This way. Don't run along the trenches.
What? Over here? Oh,
Don't.
damn it.
Watch out for that entrenching tool.
Oh, damn.
Good Lord. Over here. Sit. Okay. Headphones.
Okay, headphones on.
That was a nasty fall.
Yes, I've had a few of those.
Oh man. Well, as people are wont to know, we had a fill-in show last week, and what a fill-in show it was. I hope you guys got a chance to listen to it. You and the wonderful Adam Vermillion talking Daredevil.
Yes. We went over the entire run of the book.
See, and unlike Marvel, we do not have just old fill-in shows. We have brand new, fresh fill-ins for when, like what happened with Cory. And I think it was...
Actually, I was fine to go. You were the one who was busy Tuesday and Wednesday. After Monday, okay. I was all
If you want to
set,
start scolding...
Oh, no.
I was going to wait till the end of the show, but I guess we're going to start now. First of all, who's the one who told you, you know what, Mr. One-Eye, Mr. Impression of Odin, which, by the way, now that con season's here, you got a great shot. I don't think you could pull off Nick Fury unless you're going the old David Hasselhoff. But a fuzzy old Odin, maybe. No, I said, you're going to have a fill-in episode ready. We should be ready to go. There's going to be no way you're going to come back. Because Cory's like, oh, yeah, we'll podcast. We'll be fine. We'll do it okay. And sure enough, that Monday, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Oh, okay. Well, do you want a podcast? Are you sure? You sound great. But no,
You just want me to podcast stoned.
Damn straight. It's the best way to do it. And so the problem was it was one of those weeks where if I couldn't do it Monday, I wasn't around Tuesday, Wednesday. So Cory had to fill in. He had a plan. His plans have plans, as we always know. But the other thing is, and I think I'll scold you at the end because I want to hear how the surgery went. You allowed me to rant on about when I came back from my hip surgery. Our listeners are concerned. We want to know how the surgery went, and we want to hear how it went in case somebody wants to do their eyes someday.
It was fun.
No, more than that, son. Think Howard Stern. Think sharing. You're going to share here. I know you're a secretive son of a bitch, but damn it all, I want to hear how your day went, how you got there, how you got home, what it was like going under, what it was like afterwards, and what you can see now.
Well, first off, I can't cosplay Odin because he's dead.
Well, he'd be cheaper that way. Get better.
Yeah, he'll get better because in War of the Realms they killed Loki in the first issue.
Whoa! Spoilers, man! I haven't even got my box day yet.
Then they announced 3 days later Loki's getting his own series this fall.
Nobody. If I may quote Mallrats, or no, Jane Silent Bob Strikes Back. They're fictional. Unlike you, my friend. So let's hear about what happened. First, you've done a good job of letting people know what's up, but explain to them why you were going in to get your bionic eye to begin with.
Well, what it is, I have cataracts, which is why my vision has slowly gotten worse over the past 4 or 5 years, to the point where the last time I went in to get glasses last September, they said glasses can't fix your eyes anymore. So we were going to do cataract surgery in January, and they didn't get back to me to set up all the appointments. And the reason was the person who was in charge of setting up the appointments at the eye clinic had left without notice. So a lot of balls got dropped, but we set it up again. What it is with cataracts, it's Joe, do you ever have floaters in your eye?
I do. I have them now.
Those are proteins that are floating around in your eye, and normally they just kind of dissolve, but sometimes they will attach to the lens of your eye, and they start to build up. That buildup of those proteins are cataracts.
So the question is, how long do you usually wait until they say, okay, now we got to get it done versus, oh yeah, you have them, but we're just going to let them build up?
This was last September was the first time they told me that I had them. So we got them done pretty quick because it was reducing my vision pretty rapidly. And what it is, it's kind of like if you're, well, let's talk Minnesota. You go out, there's frost all over your windshield. Let's say you just scrape a little area so you can see well enough to get to the gas station. That's what it's like having cataracts. So they told me I would need a ride there and a ride home because I can't drive. So I set up an Uber to get me there. And because they didn't know how long it would take, I would set up an Uber on my way home. And everything was fine. Everything was great. I had the time off work. I put in my disability claim. It got approved.
Now, how long did the surgery take?
Well, first, I had to go in at 6:30 in the morning because it's like an hour and a half of prep. They have to put in these eye drops, and the eye drops have to do this, and then they have to, do other things. So I filled out the form, and when they said, well, who's going to pick you up? I said, well, I'm going to call an Uber. Oh, that's fine. That's great. 20 minutes later, they come over and go, you can't have an Uber pick you up. What do you mean I can't?
This is where I'm going to stop and scold the Strode. I think I'm going to start a brand new session called Scold the Strode, because I offered to come and give you a ride back and forth because that's what friends do. I mean, if I'm going to come all the way over to your house to watch WrestleMania just for you to go all the way back to Stillwater, or grab Butch and come all the way over to pick you up after your emergency gallbladder surgery and do our best to run a comedy routine to try to pop your stitches trying to get you home. I am there to help you because I had so much fun. We were going to just drive in a parking lot for an hour, just go around and bump. And it's like, are we there yet? Yeah, almost. Are we still there? Joe, why aren't we home yet? But I had the whole routine. However, had you told me, oh yeah, I'm going to do an Uber, I would have told you, no, you're not. Because I've been cut open more times than Oprah's gone into a canned ham. And I could have told you they will not release you to an Uber. It has to be someone you know and or trust. But no, Cory keeps it to himself. You thought the Mueller report was retracted. Oh my God. Cory, when he's trying to do shit. I mean, but anyways, I don't want to make this all about me because that comes later. So that's the end of Scold the Strode for now. But so anyways, they come back and they say, you're going to do an Uber?
No, they came over and went, we can't allow you to do an Uber. And I'm like, but they told me Friday I could. Well, the doctor hasn't worked with this clinic before. You need to have someone who's responsible for you for 24 hours after the surgery. So I message you, and you, of course, are asleep because it's not even 7 a.m.
Now, here's a little background information. I had a Frappuccino at 3 p.m. the night before, or the day before, because I was really dragging my ass at work. Did not get to sleep till 4 a.m. Normally, and this was something that, my wife would have gotten up and seen that you were on the phone, but she didn't even notice that because I was nervous, whatever. So it was like, I swear, Cory, the whole fucking world's against us. It's just one of those days.
Not especially because my son doesn't have a phone service.
Ooh.
And he's no longer on the Facebook, but he keeps his Facebook Messenger. So I messaged Evelyn, and then I messaged my son. The only one who got back to me immediately was my son. And he said, yeah, I could come pick you up. And I said, okay, my surgery's at 9. They say I'll probably be out and ready to go home by 9:30, 10 o'clock. So, the nurse comes in and goes, do you have a ride? Because if you don't have a ride, we have to cancel the surgery. I said, no, my son here, he says, well, can we call him? What's his phone number? Well, he has a phone, but he has no phone number.
I have a son that has no phone.
So they needed to talk to him. So I call him on Facebook Messenger and talk to him on Facebook Messenger and get all that done. And after the nurse talks to him, she hands the phone back to me, and my son goes, I didn't know you could call people on Facebook Messenger. I said, well, now you know.
Because knowledge is power.
Yes. So they hooked me up. The hardest part was, now I had remembered my go bag in case something went wrong and I had to go to the hospital. I brought a Kindle, so I had something to read. But after they did the eye drops and put in the IV thing, they said, okay, we have to lock your personal things away. And then for an hour, I'm sitting there in a room with no TV and no radio and no nothing, just my thoughts, waiting for them to come in and knock me out. One of the things I tell people, Joe, is I am never bored. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I was so bored.
Did they even give you a TV or anything?
No, there was nothing.
Oh, I've been in that situation,
Not
but
even
usually,
a magazine.
Usually my wife was there, so I had someone to until they finally get to the point where, okay, you have to go now, blah, blah, blah.
I just listened to the conversations out in the hallway, and let me tell you something. I was easily the youngest person there for that surgery. Then they say, okay, we're going to start giving you the twilight drug. I remember being wheeled into the operating room. I remember how bright it was. And then I am in a chair in a recovery room.
Isn't that amazing?
And my son messages me and says, what's the address of this place? I'm driving around Chaska. So I give him the address. And then, 15 minutes later, he's still not in. I go, where are you? And he said, well, I'm waiting for you. I said, you have to come up so they will check me out. So they come up and, they give me my instructions and everything else. And they say, do not be out in the sun without these on. And it's the big Terminator glasses that go over your glasses that are uber dark. So my son brings me home and he says, oh, and Wednesday I'll come and I'll fix the sink. I have a leaky sink once the people who work on the water put in a shutoff valve. Cool. So I just kind of watch TV, and the first thing I notice is they did my right eye first. Joe, did you know that black and white movies are actually black and white?
I did.
I thought they were all sepia toned. I did. I thought they were all kind of sepia toned and brownish to make them. Nope, that's just one of the things that happens when the lens of your eye has gunk all over it, so the light that's coming into your eye is diffused. The second day I started noticing that through my right eye, colors are much more vivid. Like amazingly vivid.
Now, do you find yourself doing the back and forth squint like old eye, new eye, just for a comparison?
It depends. I will actually do it when I'm reading something. I'll read with the new eye. When I'm watching TV and have my glasses on, as long as it's middle distance, I'm fine. But if it's like I'm driving, my glasses, because they're for the old prescription, I actually do have to kind of cover the right eye because everything's blurry far away with these glasses because you could use them to start fires. The people are coming to put in a water shutoff valve for the house. It hasn't been fixed since the 80s. So it took them 2 days. They actually had to dig a 9-foot deep hole to get all the way down to the original water line and replace all of the hoses, all of the water lines. So now I had only planned to take off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And Wednesday, I have to put in eye drops 4 times a day. I still have a headache if I wear my glasses too long with the new vision. So I call in work, and, I'm not going to be in tomorrow. My son comes to fix the sink, and we go to Home Depot. And after I'm there for 20 minutes, because I'm looking at things not in the middle distance, but the far distance, oh my God, I had such a headache. I actually had to sit down and go, when you've found everything you need, just let me know. Are you okay? Because of the 2 different eyes and the prescription. So I literally called and told work I would not be in until they are all done with everything. I already have the disability set up, so I'm getting paid for the whole time. I did do my sleep shifts at the group home because, hey, I'm not going to turn down getting paid to sleep. I need to sleep anyway. But I've just been kind of watching TV and reading comics and mixing podcasts and enjoying not going into work. I could really get to like this.
You know how I felt when I was recovering from my hip. It's like, this is so great. Just falling asleep at 4, waking up at noon, rinse, lather, repeat.
I have been keeping to a regular schedule because I still need to go in and sleep at the group home. Well, I do it tomorrow night, and then I actually don't do it again till this weekend. So
the question is, glad you did it?
Oh, very glad I did it.
And when are you doing your second eye?
My second eye is on Wednesday.
Which, by the time this podcast airs, will be done.
Yep, so I will actually be back at work unless something horrible happens. So 2 weeks to get it all done. I talked to my grandmother who had it done and a couple of friends online who had it done. And they said the time between surgeries is the worst part. Because, you can't get new glasses yet. But one eye is still bad and one eye is new. Now, I will still need glasses to see far away, but they're going to find out if I need glasses for the close and middle distance. It's weird because other people I know have got it done. They wanted to be able to see far away and they wanted to have, like reading glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've worked on computers most of the time and read so much, it's like, no, I've been nearsighted my whole life. Let's just keep me nearsighted. But no pain involved. The eye drops kind of feel weird, and there've been a couple times where it's my eyes feel a little gritty, and you can't rub your eyes, and you have to wear this eye guard over your eyes so you don't rub your eyes when you're sleeping. But overall, it's been okay. And I'll be very happy when I get my new glasses and all that. But I've been reading a lot of comics.
Any difference that you see now?
Oh my God, yes.
And have you looked at any Vince Coletta's inking?
Yeah, it's even worse than I. It's weird because one of the things that has changed is color. And I talked a little earlier about how black and white movies, they all were kind of sepia toned. My whole vision kind of was yellowed. And one of the things that I've noticed is now yellows and greens really pop when I look at them. And the clarity, just the clarity, like, without my glasses, a black and white movie in the new eye, it's like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Black and white movies look even better. I'll be interested to see when both eyes are done because one of my complaints about movies and TV is that everything is super, super dark. So I'll want to see if this clears that up. Also, driving at night is going to be so much better. I hate driving at night in the rain.
Oh.
because
It's no picnic for those of us without cataracts.
yeah, but it's like for years I've been saying, why don't they use reflective paint when they paint on the roads? So I want to see if that's any better, but it's like, okay, I really can't see the center stripe because of the rain and the darkness. And what were you up to?
Work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you get any comics read?
No, did read a few graphic novels though.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we go over the stuff that we've been reading?
Cool.
Because I've got stuff to review.
Oh, and I got some stuff lined up here, and some of it I've mentioned before, and others are new. So, should I start?
If you want to.
All right. Well, I've mentioned this one before because I was excited, and I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Menage a 3. Not necessarily trois, because it's written with the numeral 3. And this is basically a website by the creative team of Gilse Legais. She does Gem and the Holograms, Betty Boop, and David Lumsden, who has done Sandra on the Rocks, Dangerously Cool. It's based off their web strip. So if you're a cheap bastard, I'm squinting at you, Mr. Strode, you can go online and check it out. Or like in my case, I just bought the 3 volumes that are available. And the 4th one is due, I believe, this September. And I'll probably mention it when we get to our previews thing. The strip follows the lives of comic book geek Gary and his 2 way hotter than he is roommates. And I don't have volume 1. Oh, there it is, way over here. Hang on a second. I'll just read off the volume. Basically, let's see. It's Dee Dee, who's kind of a bisexual, just enjoying life type person. And then Z, who is, oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Z is that way. Dee Dee is a French Amazonian goddess with head-sized breasts and strength to match. And, of course, they move in with the 27-year-old virgin Gary, and hijinks ensue. 3 volumes of it. Now, I describe this in sexual terms, and that's very much a part of this particular book. But what's interesting about it is that, first of all, it's all consensual, which is something I didn't realize until like reading halfway through volume 2. And second of all, the characters are growing, so they're learning things. They're discovering things. There's a lot of hijinks. Think like Three's Company for those of you who get those television references. And new characters are introduced. The art is absolutely gorgeous. There is top nudity, but not any full frontal nudity. But you don't need to. You can pretty much assume what they're doing by the way the art style is. The other thing that I found interesting, and this was apparently in volume 3, as they start dealing with different things, is there's one character who discovers that she has a problem because every time she sees a guy naked, she sees tentacles and tends to go for the nut punch. You can usually tell where she is by when she's really upset, because there'll be a series of guys all bent over in that. You guys, you know what I'm talking about. Girls don't. And anyways, she realizes she has a problem, but she's in love with Gary, the virgin, and she also realizes she's being selfish and has to let Gary go. And as she's leaving, you can see it in her eyes that she's very upset about this. She's doing this for the good of Gary, but she's very conflicted herself. To convey that in artwork is utterly amazing. You would expect that to see something like that on a moving screen, television, a movie, whatever. But to do that in the artwork just floored me, absolutely floored me. So I recommend this. You can go to Udon, UDON, entertainment.com. I believe that's where the web strip is. Or just look for it on previews. Call your neighborhood comic store. The first 3 are out, and I've absolutely enjoyed it. And I cannot wait for the 4th one this September. Strode.
The first book that I read was a first issue from Oni Press called Morning in America, written by Magdalene Bisaggio and illustrated by Claudia Aguirre. And it is a story of four high school girls who, they're petty criminals. They're problem girls. It's set in the 80s, and in the background of the plot is that high school students are disappearing. The first issue introduces us to them, introduces us to 1983, actually brings in stuff like the financial issues that were going on at the time, how people were losing their jobs. But the thing that really hooked me was page 1, Morning in America, page 2, America, where is it here? What page is it where it says that? Oh, it's page 7, 1 week before the end of the world. So basically the first issue is setting up what's going on, setting up the characters, and then at the end of the issue, the lead character says, we need to find out what's going on. So it's kind of a young adult mystery. But it really hooked me when it has that 1 week before the end of the world. What does it mean? What are they talking about? Where are they going with this? The characters are complex. They're likable, even though they're like petty criminals and such. And the creators have a really good sense of what the 80s were like. I like the art because it's almost like looking at watercolor paintings. It's a little cartoony. It's I just like the art. The art actually looks like 80s art in that it was not, it's not superhero-ish. It's drawn like it's made in the 80s, featuring teenage girls who look like teenage girls and dress like teenage girls did in the 80s. So there's that nostalgia buzz. I've been going through a lot of 80s nostalgia lately. I even binge watched Deadly Class on Sci-Fi, which is set in the 80s. But I don't know where it's going other than the fact that you've got a mystery, you've got these characters, and we're going to see where it goes. This right now is a borrow. Whether it becomes a buy is going to depend on where it goes, but I'm hooked enough that I'm going to keep reading it. Joe?
What was the title again?
Morning in America from Oni Press.
I'll have to look. I don't know if I bought that one or not. I got one of the things going on at work is it was busy. We were finishing up spring break. We had the Final Four. That's why I didn't get a lot read. But it's finally slowed down a lot as we're recording. Easter was yesterday, so not a lot of people. If they flew on Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, I did get a chance to reach and read some of the stuff that's been piling up. One of the books I grabbed is one I picked up from our good buddy down at Cedar Cliff Collectibles, X-Men versus Hulk. This is one of those reprint books, originally $24.99. Steve had it for an astonishing $2.99. I cannot pass up something like that. Good Lord, a new comic book costs more than that. And it was tempting to buy them all because I'm buying stuff for the charity booth, coming up at the MSP SpringCon. Normally this is where I would blurb it, but I'll save it for later.
I'm bringing you a bag of stuff.
Oh, fun! And I'll talk about some of the other guys that we got that have donated some stuff. But X-Men versus Hulk. I'm not sure when it came out. I might be out of print now because if they're blowing it out for $2.99. 2014. It contains World War Hulk, X-Men number 1 through 3, Hulk Team Up number 1, X-Men versus Hulk number 1, Incredible Hulk Annual number 7, which that's Hulk, Angel, and Iceman, done by John Byrne, which always bothered me because it was never in any of the books you think it should have been in. It wasn't in the Champion books. It wasn't in any of the John Byrne's, except like the John Byrne does Marvel books. And we're talking omnibus books. And then it also had material from Rampaging Hulk number 2. Cory, tell the folks about Rampaging Hulk.
Rampaging Hulk was a black and white magazine during the 70s, Marvel had black and white magazines, and they did a Hulk black and white magazine, kind of when the Hulk TV series started. For the first 9 issues, it was a black and white magazine that told stories after Hulk, Incredible Hulk #6, and before he started up in Tales to Astonish. They have since said that those stories didn't happen, which I find a huge shame. They've reprinted the whole thing in a essential.
Yeah.
And if you have not read those stories, you should do so. Doug Mensch wrote all of them, except for the one by Jim Starlin. And Starlin drew his. I believe it was issue 4. Walt Simonson did a lot of the art in it. And I believe, did Simonson do the art for issue 2?
He did. He did. So you got Walt Simonson doing X-Men and a Hulk fight.
Yes.
Now, I got to look this up later on Wikipedia, but there was a lady called Barit who was an alien, and they revealed in the regular Hulk book that she was filming this as a documentary for whatever race she was in, and I have no idea.
No, in Rampaging Hulk, they said it was a documentary. But
did they? Because they also said that in the regular Hulk comic, too.
The regular Hulk comic, they said that she was creating them, and none of the stories happened, so that's how they dismissed them all.
Oh, okay. Because one of the big
really
things...
made me mad.
Yeah, I mean, and it was more of an adult comic, because I do remember I probably would have exploded on social media, but even in pre-internet days, made a lot of controversy where Bruce Banner was cornered in the bathroom by 2 gentlemen who were intent on raping him. And
that, however, was after it was Rampaging Hulk, because with issue 10, it became a color book.
But is that canon or not?
No.
Okay, so
it also tied in more with the TV series in that Hulk didn't fight any supervillains. It was more like the TV series where he was wandering across the U.S. and got involved in people's lives. And I remember that story at the time. People were mad about it.
Oh, yeah.
And Jim Shooter was like, but that happens all the time. That's what gay people are like. And people were like, no. That's why we're mad. That's not what gay people are like. It's like the first time you have gay people in a Marvel book, not true, by the way, they're predators who are, rapists, etc., etc. But Joe, here we go. Does Joe know who was the first gay character, although they never said he was gay outright, in a Marvel comic?
Was it Earthstar?
No. In Black Panther, the villain Venom was
not to be confused with the Venom we know.
Right. Was gay, but because of the Comics Code and Marvel editorial, they never came out and said it. But if you read it, you'll go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And Don McGregor at the time gave interviews saying, yeah, I snuck in a gay character, and if you read those issues, you'll understand why. So There you go. There's Rampage and Hulk.
And to cover it before we come back later, Barit, apparently her last appearance was in Incredible Hulk, and we're talking, this is way back in 1983 at 287. She had a run between 270 and 282, appeared in 285, 287. She got an entry in the handbook. Did appear in Maximum Security, which was a crossover where the powers in the universe decided to dump all their bad guys on the planet. I've talked about that book a while back because, it was confusing because like Cyclops was dead. Professor X could walk, was with a bunch of mutant Skrulls, yada, yada, yada. Apparently, Barit did appear in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'll have to go look because I guess she was in Peter Quill's ship. They had a brief fling, and he later dropped her off on Xandar after he's trying to sell whatever the orb is. So, Marvel never makes a character disappear. They just kind of show up when you least suspect it. Back to the book, if you recall, X-Men versus Wolverine. it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, I've read the World War Hulk X-Men, and they basically set it off like this is round one. And that book was kind of fun. If you remember World War Hulk itself, Hulk come back because he was, well, whatever, go look it up. I'm not going to recap it. We've recapped so much. And that's what's kind of fun about these books, especially when you buy them at $2.99. Because while I read World War Hulk, X-Men, I never read the team up, the X-Men Hulk, the Avenger Annual I remember reading, and I've never read the Rampaging Hulk. It's a little bit of a throwback because you get to such lush art that, John Byrne did, and then you run to just what essentially is Walt Simonson pencils. I don't think, did anybody ink him? Let me look at the...
It was probably either Alfredo Alcala or Tony DeZungia because they inked most of the black and white mags back then.
Yep. Alfredo, you said it. And so it was a little different. I mean, it was fun to see the art. I didn't like the story as much. Maybe it's because I haven't read a lot of Rampaging Hulk. I do have the omnibus, so it's on the to-do list. Okay. I don't think this is a buy unless you can find it for $2.99. If you can borrow it, it's definitely worth the read. I will probably end up giving this, if I don't donate it to the art auction or the charity booth that I'm running, I might give it to a friend of mine who's really, really into Hulk fights, and I think he'll enjoy this one. What you got up next, Mr. Strode?
The next book I have is a Marvel book. First issue of Meet the Skrulls. It's by Robbie Thompson and Nico Henrikon. And what it is, it's about a story of a Skrull family undercover in the suburbs. And the first issue is basically setting up what's going on. The teenage Skrull daughter is not going along with the mission. You know how I talked about the first issue of Morning in America set everything up so that I was intrigued enough to keep buying it? This issue was so much set up that by the end of it, 15 pages in, I was going, can we please have something happen? Can we please move forward? We get the premise. We get the characters. Let's move on. And at page 22, that's where it basically, okay, we've got a setup, and that's it. Nothing happens. One of the complaints older readers have about modern comics is they'll pick up an issue and nothing happens. And I disagree. A lot of it is that it's paced differently, et cetera, et cetera. But this one, nothing happens. It's all set up. And it takes way too much time to set up the story. Nobody's buying this book unless you already know Marvel. You don't need to spend that much time setting up what Skrulls are. You don't need to spend that much time setting things in place. It's like a Spider-Man story if the entire issue was, by the way, this is Peter Parker. Here's his job. Here's his living situation. The end. When you've got an established universe and you have kind of an established milieu, you don't need to spend a lot of time setting it up. You're wasting the reader's time. This was a lot of tell, and comics should be show, not tell. So on this one, I may go back and read it when it's on Marvel Unlimited, but for now, it's an ignore. Joe?
I went back and decided to read the Infinity War, mainly because I have not read it in ages, and I may, I've spent so much time purging my collection. I may spend equal amount of times regretting that I did, because I remember it, but I don't remember it. It's like rereading it and like, oh, I don't know what happens next. Oh, I missed that little part. You forget. I could explain what was going on. And of course, I spent 90% of the time explaining to people, no, this isn't what the book comic was based off. And then you find out people that, oh, that's Adam Warlock on the cover. So they know comic geeks. In case you've never read it, the Infinity War happens after the Infinity Crusade, after the Infinity Gauntlet, but before the Infinity Crusade. It was Starlin's kind of trilogy. And this is comic talk. This isn't movie talk. The movie talking war was based on the Gauntlet, but pretty soon it'll be Endgame, so it won't matter. Got it? Get it? Well, in this one, the universe may be saved or destroyed or both, because Jim Starlin reached back into his bag of tricks from the 70s and brought back the Megas, and he really rocked in this one. He was such an awesome villain. The book collect Infinity War 1 through 6. Marvel Comics presents 108, 111, and Warlock and the Infinity Watch 7 through 10. Plus, at the end, gave a brief recap of all the tie-ins. So even though you may not have the tie-ins or want to go dig up the tie-ins, you can still read. Like, you want to know what happened, Mark Spector, Moon Knight, 44 to 41, because you may want to, or you may want to know what happened in Daredevil 310. And so it's a pretty fun package. Obviously, it's part of the trilogy. I do not have Crusade yet because it's out. I think it's 2 volumes. They really upped the ante in that. And if you want to put up a spoiler for what a 30-year-old comic, Crusade was kind of sad because at the end it was like, oh, it's just mind control. You know, unlike when they visited similar themes where people who were your friends who suddenly became your enemies. In Civil War, it was because they believed in the side they chose or flipped or whatever. And so it took a while for those wounds to heal. Infinity Crusade was awesome, but the ending was kind of unpalatable. And it left it kind of sad because Infinity Gauntlet was amazing. Infinity War was fun. I got to go reread Crusade to figure out. But if you haven't found these, you should be able to find them. I would imagine they're on Marvel Unlimited. I'd imagine they're coming to a Comic-Con near you. I am pretty sure I paid $3 for this at half-price bookstores, so maybe you might luck out and find another cheap copy.
Joe, Infinity War just came out as an omnibus.
It did.
With all of the tie-ins.
Well, I got mine. That's probably why I didn't buy the omnibus, because I got this for $3. You know, and that's what kills me. I do my schedule. I do my order every month, and the omnibus, unless it's something I'm dying to read, is usually the first to go. Or in the case of something like the Joker omnibus gets canceled, and then I got $80 waiting and floating around there. Mumble, grumble. What's next for you, Mr. S?
The next book I have is a comic from a company called Space Between Entertainment called Prison Witch. It is written by Amy Shand and Pat Shand and illustrated by Erica D'Urso. It is set in a women's prison. And what we find out is that our lead character is a witch. And the big twist at the end of the story, because it is a series, is she's not the only one. There were things I liked about this book and things I didn't. I think that every once in a while it gets very unnecessarily... I'm trying to think of the best word for it. Okay, the opening pages, like page 1, 2, pages 1 and 2, a character sitting on the toilet talking the whole time. I don't think that was necessary. I thought that was just, I don't know, it didn't fit for me. It didn't work for me. There's a lot of cliche in this where, you know, the lead character gets on the wrong side of a gang. And however, the art is very good at telling the story. I like how the characters all look different in that, you know, they aren't the same body type. They aren't the same facial type. It's one of my complaints with a lot of artists is their characters all kind of look the same except for their hair. And this one, the characters all look very different. There's some cool things here, but again, it takes a little too long to get going. I want to see where it goes because I do like the idea of there's a coven in this women's prison that is going to try to protect them from the other prison gangs, etc., etc. The best way to describe it is, again, This is setup. It does have more going on, so the story did keep me engaged. However, the cliches kind of start to stack up, so this is a borrow. Again, if they go in a unique direction, I'll upgrade it to a buy, but right now it's a borrow, mostly because of the art. I really like the art in this book. It's a black and white book, and it's not just, okay, this book is in black and white because they couldn't afford color. The artist uses black and white in a way that makes it work. Much like how Walking Dead, I don't think it would work if it were in color because it's drawn for black and white. So Prison Witch is a borrow. Joe?
All right, the last one I've got is an actual book. If you can read that, I do buy those occasionally. And this is another $3 book that I picked up at half price. That must be my theme today. I'm just being a cheap SOB. And this is, I've talked about these before. Monty Python FAQ. All that's left to know about spams, grails, spam, nudging, bruises, and spams. This is from Applause and part of the series of books where you'll see it. I've read in the past. Doctor Who FAQ, MASH FAQ, they go into minutia detail about the actors' lives that are in Monty Python. They go talk about the influences that come up, the sketches that come up, which is cool because a lot of times, unless they want to be lost forever, because back then BBC was cheap and would reuse their videotape or just throw it out or whatever. And you can see just how everything kind of wove into place. And you think about it, I mean, Monty Python was only 3 seasons. And these guys went from show to show to show, different mixtures, different things. I mean, David Frost, the guy who interviewed Nixon, became a journalist. He worked with a lot of these guys in the 50s and 60s back when they were all learning their craft and going from different humor shows. And then I haven't gotten to it yet, but eventually you get to a point where Monty Python hits and it clicks. I'm reading through all the episodes where they go into minutia and they talk about, this, that, and some things. These are absolutely fun books. There are tons of them out there about different media subjects. And whether you're picking up the one on MASH, on Monty Python, Doctor Who, I always recommend, if you can't buy it cheap, because everything I bought this particular review session is cheap, or if you can borrow it somehow, you'll just find things you didn't even know. And you might find yourself rereading it. The MASH one I talked about, my wife is reading, and she's like, I had no idea all this stuff. And it gets into things too afterwards, like all the different books that came out, tried to tie into the MASH phenomena. Had nothing to do with the TV show. So again,
they were licensed from the original novel, and they were written by what's his name, W.E.B. Griffith, who wrote a bunch of basically cop novels.
Yeah.
So he was kind of I don't want to say he was a hack, but he was a guy who.
Well, that's kind of what they were.
Novels.
Yeah, they were just churned out. Anyways, the Monty Python FAQ is a lot of fun. The show right now is on Netflix. If you've never seen it, what is wrong with you? I mean, go do it. It's a lot of fun. You never know. And it's like I said, I think it's three and a half seasons, and then a bunch of movies and a play, Spam-A-Lot, a couple specials. I never made into a comic book though. Curious that. Cory, what do you got for us?
Well, if that's your last one, I guess I will review The $6 Million Man, #1 by Dynamite Press.
No. Which is appropriate because not only do I have a bionic hip that doesn't do the noise, but now Cory has the eye.
By the way, when I left the eye doctor, they gave me a card that says I have an implant. So, Joe, my eyes are up here. Don't stare at my chest.
Sorry. Well, to be fair, your eye can't be that great because you haven't noticed I'm not wearing pants.
Well, also, you're in St. Paul. It's written by Christopher Hastings.
Cory, look behind you. See the crack in the window? Hi. I've been potting outside. I pot outside your home every time. You've just never noticed.
I thought it was Wolfie.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. But I guess now that you can see, I'll trudge back to St. Paul after we're done.
Okay. And drawn by David Hahn. I'm going to say two things about this. I really like this book, and it is not very faithful to the TV series. And it is set in the 70s. It's set in 1974. The gimmick of the plot is that Steve Austin has teamed up with a Japanese spy to infiltrate a bad guy's lair. And she's very serious about what she does. And this is where it's different from the TV show. Steve Austin is kind of flippant, kind of sarcastic and snide. Kind of brags a lot about being in NASA and stuff. And it made this a lot more fun than I expected. Because I think I've told the story on the podcast before. When I first got a satellite dish so that I could watch ECW, I didn't have the Sci-Fi Channel before. So Sci-Fi Channel, I could watch the Sci-Fi Channel. Oh, look, they're showing the $6 Million Man. That was my favorite show in the whole world as a kid. It's the Bigfoot episode. And I started watching it. And I remembered all the times that if it was on, we couldn't leave my grandparents' house once it started. Because we had to watch it. Or we would have to leave wherever we were. We had to leave in time to get home to watch it.
Ugh.
After 10 minutes, I called my mother and apologized. Because it was just god awful. It was unwatchable. And I told my mom, I'm so sorry for that. She said, yeah, it was really, really bad. It was cheap. The plots were silly. I think they spent a total of like $20 on special effects.
See, now I don't recall it that harshly, because I actually own a couple of the DVDs, the ones that had the return of the Bigfoot. I think John Cassidy was there. Right? No, he did the first one.
Okay.
And this one also had the Fembot. This had all the crossovers between which is amazing because it's the first time you ever had a TV show where one episode was on ABC and the crossover episode was on a different network, whatever. So and again, maybe it's because I just fill in the gaps or I just sit down and enjoy it. There's some that don't work for me. I mean, I did try the Spider-Man in the 70s.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty awful, too.
And there are parts where, when he had the porn mustache and the first season of Bionic Woman is a retread of the first season of the $6 Million Man. So I don't know. Maybe it's just I didn't hit the right episodes. Or maybe it's just because it was a Bionic Woman one. I mean, there's a couple that she did to this day that are still chilling, and when I watch it, they still hold on pretty good.
And I remember her show was up for an Emmy a couple of times.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe it's different. Like I said, I do have the seasons downstairs because they've just gone ridiculously cheap, and I figured, who knows? Maybe I'll break them open one of these days and go, Cory, remember back on episode 401? No, we're on 402, right?
405.
Holy cow! I've lost count. You were right.
But this comic was a lot of fun. It had adventure. It had humor. The art is really good. It's more in an animated style, which is kind of becoming the hot thing right now, and it really works for this book. I remember I read the novel Cyborg, which $6 Million Man is based on, and it's different from this as well. It took it far more seriously. I like the fact that this takes the world seriously and gives Steve Austin kind of a better personality than just, I'm Joe Hero. I'm here to be a hero. I like the fact that he's kind of cocky and brags a lot and overestimates himself. So on the buy, borrow, ignore, this is a buy. And I never thought that I would be excited about a $6 Million Man comic.
Which is weird because I wasn't with the last one Dynamite did, so I did not put this on my buy list. But I probably will now, or at least wait till the graphic novel comes out.
You know what else you should buy, Joe?
Anything from these guys, our sponsors?
Why, yes! That's right, here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network, we have ads, and our first sponsor is me. That's right, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. I have my first book out with Dangerous Dan Moore. It's the first 100 strips of our online web strip, Worldwide News, the story of the lowest rated cable news network. And you can get yourself a copy with commentary, with all sorts of extras, with signatures and everything. Just email Dan over at lordshadowflame@gmail.com. Our top sponsor, who's been with us since day one, is DreamHost. DreamHost.com. You need yourself a website, and DreamHost.com is the #1 web host in the whole known universe. Just head over to DreamHost.com, put in the code KRAYZ, KRAYZ, get $20 off your first year. How can you beat that? Our other sponsor is Graze, GRAZE.com. Healthy snacks for a healthy lifestyle. Just head over to Graze, put in the code CORYS 3R5P. Your first and fifth box are free. You can get them weekly. You can get them bi-weekly. You can get them monthly. You can just order a whole bunch of them. It's great stuff to keep you away from the vending machine at work. Now, if you would like to leave a comment for any of the podcasts that we do, we'd love those. Go ahead and email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, or you can call 952-856-0519. Operators are standing by. Okay, it's just a place that will record your calls, but we'll play them on the air. We'll answer your questions. We love getting feedback. Tell us what you think. Ask a question. Suggest a topic. Be a guest. Send us your stuff. solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. If you would like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose radio shows, you can. Just email us at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Subject advertising. Thanks. And you know how I said that I'm using this time off work to record podcasts?
Yes.
Guess what? Here they are. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is filled with all kinds of audio goodness. First, there's Crazy Comics and Stories. It's been going since 2010. It drops every Monday, and it has me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, and Joe Crazy Writer talking comics, shenanigans, and whatever we're freaking and geeking about. Every Monday morning. It's been going since 2010, and it's available at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. Also on that same feed is the Solitaire Rose Podcast, which is me, again, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, doing interviews, talking about comics history, pretty much talking about whatever I want to talk about. We've also got Solo Joe, where Joe Crazy Writer does a solo podcast, and he hasn't done one in a while, so kick him in the shins to get him started. We also, on that same feed, have Solitaire Rose Series and Review, where we do DVD commentary of older comic book series. That's all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. I also do a podcast with Wolfie B. Bad at badadvice.solitairerose.com, where we take listener questions and give them bad advice. There's also Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. There's also Fantastic Forecast, where myself and Adam Vermillion are going through the entire run of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. And if you think that I'm on all of these podcasts, you're wrong, because Scrabbling Across the West is at scrabbling.solitairerose.com, where musician Dave Cofell and his wife Stephanie travel across America and then sitting down to play Scrabble and talk about the day. That's at Scrabbling Across the West, scrabbling.solitairerose.com. There are always more podcasts at the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network. Be there. Aloha. Wow, that was almost seamless.
The sad thing is when I was off work, and I fucking hurt. Or I was high. That oxycodone was good.
See, I've had a couple of headaches, but all I'm allowed to take is Tylenol, and that's fine. It's mostly because of eye strain. And I have to do eye drops every, 4 times a day. And everyone I talk to about this who's either had it done or works with it, an eye doctor, like, you are doing your eye drops, right? Yeah. Okay, make sure to do your eye drops. The other thing that's happening is on the periphery of my vision. First off, I have much better peripheral vision than I had in the past. Because the last time I did a test for peripheral vision, you don't want to know how bad it was. Now it's there, but I can actually see a wobble of my lens. And the eye doctor said, yeah, that's your lens being worked into place as your eye is healing. So basically, I'm watching the cells kind of grabbing onto this artificial lens and pushing it into place.
So you didn't know that this peer podcast, not only a cornucopia of knowledge about comic books, but also a plethora of advice on healthcare.
The more you know.
I just thought we need a little music there. So.
And you know what else this podcast tells you about, Joe?
What's that?
Your favorite part.
Oh!
No, not me describing what it's like to be shot up with drugs. It's what's going on the eBays.
I've had a lot of stuff going on the eBays because it's been a couple weeks since we talked. And although there is one thing I want to point out. Cory, do you remember when I talked about the series called Ogre from Source Point Press?
Yes.
Did you buy it?
Not yet.
You probably should because they're going insane. Didn't I tell you? You know, you got to listen to us. If I don't think we cater a lot to people who buy comics for investment because, frankly, there's better ways to do it. But I went to put my set on eBay because I read it and I enjoyed it and I even reviewed it. And oh my God, they're like $20 an issue. I can't believe it. So just sometimes you might want to just listen to your old Uncle Rat Bastard and the Crazed One. I'm not saying you're going to retire on it, but you just might never know. In the meantime, I'll kind of rattle off some of the stuff I've sold. Cory, jump in if you hear anything that trips a trigger, because Ghost Hellboy number 1 to 2 was a 1996 crossover between the two characters. It was back, I think, when Dark Horse had trying to get their own universe going with Ghost.
And what was that universe called, Joe?
Greatest Worlds, wasn't it?
Comics Greatest World.
And it just shows to go. It was really neither. A guy contacted me and wanted to do a deal, and we cut a deal on a lot of my Shazam comics, including A World's Finest. So what's left is on the eBays if you're so inclined. One thing I did do is I went through, and as you know, I love to be the lowest price guy there because I like to give you a deal. But I took away a lot of the best make an offer deals because when I'm the lowest price there isn't. You as a listener, though, you have a heads up because if you tell me that you're a listener here, I'll not only probably cut you a good deal, but I already got everything at free shipping, so that's not even an offer anymore. But I just, I might even give you something free. I'll toss something in. You never know. Maybe it's that tape from 2 episodes ago, the DC Comics Hot Comics ad, or maybe it's a copy of Worldwide News. Maybe not this one because I think it's autographed by both Cory and Dangerous Dan Moore. But, I got all sorts of stuff to sell and give away. I put up all my Little Abner dailies from Kitchen Sink Press. It was going to be a 54 volume series, but only 27 came out before they went under. I just sold volume 24. And like usual, it's the later volumes that go up in price more. Cory and I talked ages ago about Honk number 2 because it was a magazine that came out. Let's see. When did that sucker come out?
It was in the 80s.
Yeah, 87.
And it was from Fantagraphics Press.
And this one had an interview from Bill Watterson, creator of Calvin and Hobbes, one of the few that he actually did outside of his own books. This also had stuff on early years of Alan Moore, Peter Begg, Eddie Campbell, Mark Hempel, all sorts of stuff. A fun magazine. This one went crazy price because of the Bill Watterson one. I've seen it as high as $40. I sold mine for a mere $17.49. How's that for a discount? Other things I sold, Secret Society of Supervillains set. I talked about that before. I read the hardcovers, which again are really pricey. That number 2 is like a $75 book. it was just one of those series that fell victim to the DC implosion. And as fun as it was to read, it fizzled, and I just didn't like it. So sell it as a whole. A couple signed volumes from I believe this was Boundless, Lady Death, Volume 1, and Origins Volume 2. We talked about them liquidating their stuff a while back. So these are actually down at liquidation prices. Kind of cool. Cory, did you ever read Buzz and Bell Space Cadets?
Yes, because
Yep.
that was Sergio Aragonés, and that was published by NBM as kind of those European comics albums.
Yeah.
So it cost way too much.
Well, mine was a signed platinum edition, and you can actually find them on the eBays fairly cheap. At one time, these were going about $100, but I finally settled for $39.99 on mine because, again, I'm just trying to liquidate this stuff out. Somebody made an offer. I said yes. I sold a copy or a 3-run set of Spider-Man Fever, which was done by Brendan McCarthy. It's a very innovative original crossover with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Really, if you like Steve Ditko's run on Doctor Strange, you should pick this one up. It's just a 3-issue series, really cheap. The book is out as well, so you can find that. Might be on Marvel Unlimited. I don't know. I gotta get mine going. I had a run of Epic called Dinosaurs, a celebration. This came out in '92, and it was just one of those books I picked up quite a bit in just for the shop because you figure kids are going to come in and pick up books on dinosaurs, and I had one set left. It's gone. We've talked in the past about John Lewis's True Swamp. True Swamp was centers around the lives of Lenny the Leaf Frog and other residents of a mythical swamp. John Lewis, I don't believe, is in comics anymore. He did a really good run of Robin from DC, and of course his own self stuff was True Swamp. He showed up a lot at the MCBA shows. And I've had a run of his stuff, and I just put it up on the eBays because I got the book somewhere. And I sold my one copy of Spider-Man Rock Reflections of a Superhero CD.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's not terribly expensive. I got it. But now if you got the album, that's some serious dollars right there. So what I've been doing on the eBays is everything's been changed. eBay no longer stops an auction. They just leave it till canceled. So if I haven't repriced something, you may get a good deal on it. I am looking constantly because everything now should be at, if I can do it, at free shipping. And the reason you'll see a lot of people do that is because they're trying to ape Amazon, but also they'll give me like a 10% whatever rebate on final fees if I do that. So buy lots. Con season's coming. I need to get some monies up, and we'll talk a little bit more when we get to Freaking and Geeking. But I'm easy to find, KRAYZ. Cory's got a link for me on the Facebook page, and back in the ads. He's such a kind and giving guy. What will he be like now that he can see how cruddy life really is? He might go back to the doctor and say, put the cataracts back, put them back.
Or I might go back to the way I was when you used to call me the most miserable man in comics.
No, we're not going to let that happen. Right, Stephanie? She's got my back on this one. Anyways. Worst segue ever.
Yeah, I was going to say. Anyways. You just left me hanging.
I can't, the show's been going way too comfortable.
Now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I sign off and look at girls cosplaying as Spider-Gwen on Instagram.
Which he does.
Damn right I do. No, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Speaking of a segment I thought had been retired, I may have to resurrect Hip Watch.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, my left hip. Right hip is the bionic one. But the left hip now is showing signs of wear and tear. And I talked to my therapist about that, and she said, well, probably what's happening is as your right hip's getting stronger, it's starting to put more of the load evenly on the body, and you know, my left hip was as bad as my right hip. It just was my right one went bad first. And it will be replaced sooner or later. I'm trying to get it done maybe for Christmas. But, you know, she helped me adjust some of my exercises. When we're done here, I'll probably go try, see if it helps. I do up. Can get myself a cortisone shot, which I may have to do because, you know, if I want to keep the right hip going as, you know, keep the therapy going on that. So, and of course, with all that comes, how the hell am I going to do it? The first time around, I had money in the bank. I had some leave set up. I did sign up for the voluntary leave program, but when everything furloughed, that kind of shot that to hell. So that's why I was talking about the eBays. If you want to help Joe with his hip fund, well, not really. It'd be more for Comic-Con season, because you know that's coming up. So,
Joe,
anyways,
got a message.
I did. That was my wife calling. I said, "Why are you podding with Strode? You can pod with him anytime. Why don't you just answer my phone?" So I'm going to put myself on mute. Cory, go ahead with the folks and tell them what you're freaking on.
The freaking I am doing, I did an interview back in February. Jason Sachs. I did an interview with Jason Sachs back in February. I got it about half mixed, and there was a problem with the recording. So I didn't have time to dig into it. So I just kind of put it aside. And then about I would say 2-3 weeks ago, I started working on it again. And I did everything that I could to try to salvage it. And by the end, there was just no way to salvage it. And it's a shame because it was a 90-minute interview. He wrote the American Comic Book Chronicles, the 90s, as well as the American Comic Book Chronicles, the 70s. And it was a great discussion. We had a lot of fun, but it's gone. It's part of the switch over to Skype recording things. So we are going to reschedule. We're going to do it again in May, but it was so frustrating. I had spent off and on probably about 7 or 8 hours trying to fix that recording and see if it could be salvaged, but it just couldn't. Thankfully, the issue with Skype was that one we had with Angel Medina as well, where I had to cut some pieces out of that because rather than listening to us talk, you heard this. And that has been resolved. I actually had to work with Microsoft to make sure that that was all fixed. So really, that's the only thing I am geeking on. I have not read any comic book news. I have not really been on the internet all that much. Well, there's one other thing I'm geeking on. Joe, I'm not allowed to go outside in the sun without the big dark glasses on, right?
Normally, no, because you're always kind of a sneaky rat bastard anyways, but definitely not now. Although today it is gray and gloomy, so go knock yourself out.
I was going to say, describe to the people what the weather was like for most of last week.
You know, I worked. That was the hard part, but I do recall a couple really, really nice days. Yes. Oh, the type of days you just want to sit outside.
It was in the high 60s, low 70s, no humidity, and nope, I couldn't go outside and sit on the deck and read. So I did read inside. I do have the house kind of ready. You know, I've aired it out. I've done a lot of cleaning, but could not sit on the deck with a big old book and a frosty beverage, even though, you know, it's just right out the door. But if I put on the big, heavy glasses, it's pretty hard to read with those on. So, yeah, I'm freaking about that. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Hang on a second. Speaking of gloomy, I'm sitting in my version of studio, but it's getting so gloomy out. I actually got to turn on a light to see what the hell I'm doing. Oh, sweet bejesus, the Star Wars trailer dropped. It made me forget about the Avengers. I was so excited. And what sucks is it's not till December, which is why I don't mind watching it. I am not watching anything Avengers right now. I'm kind of on an Avengers blackout. And by this time next week, I will have seen the Avengers. Cory, how about you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go either Friday morning or Saturday morning.
Sweet. I'm going Monday, 11:20. So I got to go all weekend without listening to anybody blab or give anything away. I'm pretty much going on a Facebook blackout, which will probably be a relief to my detractors since the whole Mueller report thing went out. Boy, snipes have come out of the woodwork on both sides, but mostly the right. Yeah, that's you. So yeah, maybe a little Facebook break will be good. But the trailer was just outstanding. Have you seen it, Mr. Strode?
Yes, I have.
Oh, and I when I saw the end of it, I don't think we're spoiling anything. The very end of it, I heard the laugh, and I was like, "Holy cow, Snopes is back!" And then it hit me about 10 minutes later. That's not Snopes. That's the Emperor. And oh man, like I said, I'm hyped about the Avengers. I think I'm like I said, I'm just in a no hear mode until I see it. I mean, I heard somebody say, "Oh, the last 5 minutes have been leaked." Blah blah blah. The only thing I probably will do for the Avengers is maybe catch Ant-Man Wasp, which I've yet to see, and rewatch Infinity War. But the trailer was just wonderful. And they're always masters of misdirection, so it may not be what we think it is. I mentioned earlier I am back to work full time. Good for the wallet. I kind of miss leaving at 8, not having to shut everything down. But the last couple hours of work are generally pretty slow because if you've flown out before. Last flights tend to take off between 10 and 11. And if you're not there 2 hours in advance, well, you better be ready to carry on your luggage because the airlines won't accept it. So that being said, I'm hoping I'll get through a few more graphic novels because they're piled up like crazy. I mean, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 piles next to me. That doesn't count the plastic shelving full of omnibuses and stuff, and one of the shelvings I got from Mr. Vermillion before he took his move. I got a donation of variant comics from our good buddy Al Payne at Dynamite Comics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is for the MCBA Spring Con, and here it comes. It's at 2019, May 18th and 19th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds at the grandstand.
So the extended hours they tried last year, they didn't work.
Well, they're going 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday.
Yeah, but they go later last year?
Nope.
Didn't they go till 7? Oh, okay.
Nope, they went till 6 because remember, for the guests and the dealers, they do that incredible steak dinner for those of you who like the steak. They decided not to do it on Sunday because usually by 5 p.m. Sunday, people are pretty much worn out.
Yeah.
All the information is posted, including advanced ticket sales at mcbacomiccons.com. And of course, my family and I will be doing the charity booth, the white sale. Cory helped me in the dawning of that particular endeavor. And like I said, Al Payne is one of our old friends, one of the founders of the MCBA, and currently working at Dynamite. One of these days, I'll corner him and try to get him to talk to us on the podcast because he's got to have some stories. He's been in comics since I've known the guy.
And maybe he could hook us up with some preview copies to review.
It could be. So I'm really excited. I'll have these priced out. They'll be at the booth. Still taking donations for any of you out there in listener land. If you have something you need a tax write-off. This year, the charities are the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund and the Heroes Initiative. Both worthy causes, so you can look them up online, see where they're at. I mentioned earlier Adam Vermillion. He is busy selling his essential collection. So if you're like me and you're trying to fill in a run, and he's got a pretty decent run of the Marvel Essential books. I picked up 2 from him, so don't ask him for Classic X-Men 3, nor ask him for Daredevil #1. Of all of the books he had, those are the ones that I needed. So, and I'm just looking here. Let's see what I got left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that I want. Marvel Saga ones, maybe I might pick up, but they don't really hold up that well over time. And the 2 that I'll probably never get are the Avengers 8 and 9 because those are up in like omnibus price range because they're out of print, rare, and I'd rather just buy an omnibus. So, anyways, contact Adam Vermillion, Facebook, or I forget what his podcast is called. So let him know if he still has them. He'll probably be getting ready to sell them. I've got a new phone. I mentioned it earlier. I think Galaxy S10e, a step down from the top. And with the new phone, I've gone back to playing some of my old games that I abandoned way back. I went back to Simpsons Tapped Out. Cory, are you playing that game still, or is it?
Yeah, I'm still playing it.
Yeah, I noticed you're on there, and I went and kind of vandalized some of your stuff. But a lot of changes in it. They got rid of levels, so when things become available, they're available for all. They blew up Krusty Land. Oh, that was funny, because I jump on, and I remember my codes, and I'm signed on, and all these things are happening at once. You blew up Krusty Land. Oh, we can now run the tram through the mountains. This, that, and the other. And then it was just a hodgepodge. I wish it took me like 20 minutes to download all the updates from where I was just to get the game up to speed from downloading it off of Google Play. So, but I am enjoying the heck out of it. It is a lot of fun. The other two I play, if you're a player of these games, I play one called Pop Time that's kind of based off Simon's Cat. If you remember the Simon's Cat from the YouTubes, kind of a black and white cartoon where a guy deals with living with his cat. And this is just a bubble game, and parts of me, it drives me crazy, but other parts it's just challenging enough to keep me crawling back for more. The last game I play is a Facebook game called Train Station. If you're playing any of these games, drop me a friend request, and I'll probably friend you. And of course, for the gaming guys, they probably love me because while these are, what do they call them? Freemium games?
Yes.
They're free, but if you buy the premiums, you get a little bit farther. I kind of work off, again, this might be because of what you and I do, Cory, with comics. If we like them, we buy them. And I have a little soft spot for, and these probably aren't small businesses, but, things like that. If I like the game, I will probably buy something from the game. I'm not going to go nuts and buy $100 item, but if you're offering me like in the Simpson game, they offer donuts. That's the premium thing. If you have a deal, 200 donuts, normally $20, now $7. Yeah, I might jump on something like that. Or, you can get this character, because I figure if you're doing it, I appreciate the free game, but I appreciate, it's kind of my way of saying thank you. I enjoy the game. And of course, what pisses me off is when I do play a game like that and it does go sour. And it's like, well, what did I spend all the money for? So that said, if you've got any suggestions of games or apps or anything you think I should download now that I have a phone that can actually do this stuff, just give me a quick yell either via the Facebook page or the emails that we talk about. Last thing I do want to mention is we have a friend of the show. Well, I don't actually know if he listens to the show, but we've had him on the show, Dan Wiesenmeyer, former worker, owner of COD Comics, living life down in Florida. Oh man, he is just geeking on the Star Wars stuff going on down there. And he's big Lego artist. I believe he's coming up to the Spring Con, so definitely stop by, say hi. But he's got a variant cover that came out for an image book called Gunning for Hits, Musical Thriller Volume 5. Not listed, as far as I remember, it wasn't listed as a buy on the thing, so it might be just one that they included. I went to Atomic Avenue; they don't even have it listed yet. So if you're looking for it, it's a purple cover with whoever the protagonist in it, standing in front of a bunch of Grammy albums and pointing a gun at somebody, not necessarily at you, but kind of stage left. So if you're a variant hunter. Oof, almost blew that one, didn't I? Here's your chance to go pick up one, which I may end up doing after this here podcast. Cory, what are you geeking on?
First off, I have had a week off. I get to have another week off. I can't even remember the last time I had 2 weeks off. Now, a lot of it I haven't been able to do a whole lot because, the day of the surgery, you're just kind of, and the day after, you're kind of figuring out, things. But I do have, I've kind of set up a bunch of channels on my Roku that I had downloaded but never watched. So there is the Criterion channel. I talked about Filmstruck last year, which was Criterion Films meeting with Turner Classic and making a channel, and then it went away. Criterion has started their own. They have over 1,000 movies on it. And Criterion's kind of the high-end Blu-ray DVD for art films and important films. So I've been watching stuff on that. I have binge-watched all but the last 4 episodes of a series that was on FX called You're the Worst that I'd always heard about but hadn't watched. And it's the story of a self-involved writer and his relationship with a overly depressed woman, and how it begins with them just being entertainingly rude and obnoxious. But as it goes on, it delves deeper into why they are the way they are. It's a comedy, but there are times when it takes very serious turns. I think the second season is the best depiction of how clinical depression looks that I've ever seen. There are things characters do that make you hate them, which is pretty rare in TV, because I can't think of a lot of shows where it's a comedy where the characters are unlikable. Actually, there was an episode in the 4th season where the lead female character, I said, yeah, she's irredeemable at this point. I don't like her, and I don't want her to have a happy ending, because she's a terrible, terrible person who does terrible things. But it's very well done. I am caught up on wrestling, Joe.
It's like I don't even know you.
I know. My TiVo is now at 70% full. My goal is to get it to 50% full by the time I go back to work.
I'm like at 16 right now.
Only 16% full or 16%
left?
Oh, okay. Wow, for the first time ever, I have more open space on my TiVo than you.
I know. Of course, I got like 2 weeks of nightly news. I'll just erase.
Oh yeah. I also have been reading. I've been reading a lot of comics. The one I want to highlight is on the Marvel Unlimited app, Power Man and Iron Fist. I was not a big Power Man and Iron Fist back in the 70s and 80s. So when it came back, it was like, okay, whatever. But on the Marvel Unlimited app, I started reading it and just kind of binged through the whole series. I think it goes 15 or 16 issues. And it's lighthearted, fun, by people who know Marvel's history. And the art really blew me away, because the art has the same feel as graffiti art. It has that same sort of angular, janky oddness to it that really fit the series. As I'm reading it, it's like, I'm amazed this lasted more than 6 issues, but it lasted 16 as far as I could tell, and I really enjoyed that. I have the Infinity War Omnibus. You were talking about Infinity War, and while I like it, I have a huge problem with it.
Which is?
It has the Infinity War miniseries in the front, and then all the tie-ins after that, rather than like other books that reprint these big crossovers do. It's like, okay, here's the issue of the miniseries, here's all the stuff that tied into it, here's the second issue, here's all the stuff that tied into that, boom, boom, boom. This doesn't.
They did that on Gauntlet too, which I don't know why, but
I don't like it. I'm also reading in fits and starts the Infinite Crisis, which does it the right way. You know, it's got everything in order, and then denser than I remembered. But man, I still remember when Infinity War came out, I was still excited about Jim Starlin's stuff. It was Crusade where I went, yeah, they shouldn't have done this one.
Can I jump in too? Because
Sure.
I forgot to talk about it. We were talking Jim Starlin. He's got a Kickstarter up for the Dreadstar Omnibus. and I jumped on this again, like a certain a superstar on a various pork product that was Gand. He's doing 3 omnibuses as well as various other things that are going to reprint his entire run of Dreadstar. And I sent it to Cory. Did you jump on any of that?
I haven't yet. I'm still kind of dithering on the price because it is only 40 issues, and that's a lot of money for 3 hardcovers that print 40 issues.
Yeah.
So I'm wavering.
And he had a early 24-hour or 48-hour deal that I jumped on. I went the full Monty and got all 3 hardcovers. I think it was $200 on there. Yeah. I don't remember it. I'd have to look because I'm looking for it now and it's not there. But yeah, I went all in. I mean, I have them all in comics, but to have everything in one nice edition, I know I have various reprints of his lying around, and it is funded, so it will happen. I just got to make sure to have the $200 ready to go. But 24 days ago, Kickstarter, I meant to just look up Jim Starlin or Dreadstar. You should be able to find it.
Well, believe it or not, kids, you have listened to us blather on about my eyeballs and comic books for 90 minutes.
Woohoo!
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Cory, let's talk about my cousin Dallas.
You have a cousin Dallas?
Oh, man, he just sets up the straight man. Perfect. No, but a former customer and listener of this here podcast, Derek Anderson, does. It's his band. And he contacted us, heard that we are promoting, almost any band. And he said he'd like a little promotion, and we're more than willing to because he's got some good music.
Now,
name of the band?
If I remember right, didn't he film one of his music videos at the Source Comics and Games?
And that's the song we're going to be listening to. It's called I'm Cool. And it's just fabulous music. It's really cool seeing the Source used as a background, which is kind of cool. You too can go to YouTube and look up My Cousin Dallas and see the video and see the Source. So that's kind of fun. They're also going to be May 17th, which, I don't have my May calendar up. Where's my May calendar? That there is a Friday before SpringCon. He'll be at Midway Saloon in St. Paul at 9 p.m. July 13th at Pizza Plus in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, starting at 8 p.m. And then in August 18th at the Squash Blossom Farm in Rochester, Minnesota at 5 p.m. They've given us some permissions to run some of their music. So next couple of weeks, we're gonna see what they listen like. You can go to mycousindallas.bandcamp.com and download their 12-album track for a ridiculous price of $7, or just buy the digital. How do you say discography? Discography. If you want for $8. Just an amazing way of getting to know some of the local bands, not only around town, but we'll feature other bands. Get a hold of us via all the information we dropped. But for now, we're gonna sit back, listen to My Cousin Dallas, I'm Cool. And what could be cooler than filming at the Source? Cory, hit my music.